Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Hello, thank you for joining me. It's your host, Cornell Jermaine, back with another episode of the Build on Beauty podcast. For those who are new to the show, welcome. For those who are returning, thank you so much for joining us once again. Listen, I want to talk about something and kind of piggyback off of what we started in last week's conversation. And in this conversation, I'm going to bring out an element that I think sometimes competes, maybe not competes, but is a result of the lack of. So last week we talked about what the gurus didn't tell you as it pertains to purpose. And we dug into that a little bit, and I shared my perspective on what I think needs to be done in order to find it and how I think purpose shows up in the world and in your life. But you can go back and listen to that episode and watch it if you're on our YouTube channel. But I wanted to piggyback and show you what happens when there is no purpose, or what happens when purpose is not in view. And what tends to happen is this: when a person is lacking purpose in life, it tends to show up in boredom. It tends to show up in boredom. And what do I mean? Sometimes we soothe our boredom with entertainment. We soothe it with going to the movies, going to a show, watching our favorite show, watching our favorite series, etc., having company, having game night. But what happens when the curtain closes, the credits roll, and your friends go home at night? You're left bored again. And what that tells me is it's not that you have a lack of social activity or a lack of things to do. You have a lack of purpose. And I want to preface this episode by saying it's for a specific people. So if you're one who doesn't mind sitting around watching mindless TV and taking endless naps, and granted, there's no judgment there. If that's what you want to do with your life, that's you. But this message is not for you. This message is for the individual who is bored to the point of almost sickness. And when I say sickness, I mean both physical and mental. I'm talking about the individual who's so bored with their life that nothing soothes them. Nothing, even the activities, going out and doing this and having some kind of connection in this space or in that space, it doesn't bring them excitement anymore. That kind of individual, that's the person I'm talking to. And for that person, their boredom is not stemming from just having social activity. Their boredom is stemming from having a lack of purpose, which comes from within. We talked about last week, when it comes to discovering and developing purpose, you have to connect with your manufacturer. And if you're listening to this show, you know I recognize the manufacturer as our God in heaven, our creator. So you have to connect with him in order to find purpose. And also you have to connect with yourself. But what I want to help you understand when it comes to boredom stems from a lack of belonging. And it's deeper than just a social interaction, a lack of belonging, knowing where you fit in the world. If you don't know where you fit, if you don't know where you belong, you can end up in boredom. And the problem with this is you not only end up in boredom, but boredom can lead to mischief. Boredom can lead to behaviors that are unlike your character, because you're just doing anything because you're bored. People invite you to go anywhere, you just go anyway because you're bored. So now you're lending yourself to mischief. You're lending yourself to activities that might not even meet your character. They might not even fit who you are, but because you're bored, you'll go anyway. You understand what I'm saying? That's a dangerous place to be. But even more so dangerous, boredom can lead to depression. And it's there that I think people wallow. And sometimes if you get too deep into that space, it can be hard to climb out. Because not only does it lead you to the depression, but depression brings you into this space of lack of hope. And now you're sinking deeper and deeper into this sea of just mental anguish and illness. And now you're hearing things that are not likely. You're hearing things that are not like you or not of you. You're hearing things that make you feel like you're worthless. And now all of these thoughts of lack of worthiness and lack of value and all these things start coming up in your head when you know it's not true. But that boredom, that lack of purpose has caused you to lose hope. So this episode is for that individual that is almost bored to the point of danger. And let me tell you, it's dangerous to get into the space where you're running around doing activities that are not like you. You're getting into mischief. You're hanging out with people that don't even match up with who you are. You're doing activities that don't even align with who you are. You're falling into this depression. You don't even want to come out of your room or your home. You're falling into this lack of hope, lack of value, lack of purpose in life. And it gets dangerous because now you start to tell yourself lies. And when those lies start to become your focal point, then they become your identity. And now you've created almost this back end purpose that says, okay, I'm not worthy, so this is all I'm supposed to do. This is all I'm good for, is to sit up, watch TV, eat chips, eat donuts, eat this, hang out with low lives, all these things. You start responding and acting in ways that are not like your character or unlike a person who is full of purpose. Let me tell you what purpose comes into your life. When you begin to grab hold to purpose again, it gives you hope, it gives you vision, it gives you excitement, it gives you a sense of belonging. But how do you do so? If you're one who's in this space where you're feeling bored to the point of sickness, bored to the point of a lack of liveliness, lack of excitement, you have to first connect first with yourself. Recognize where you are. Be honest with yourself about where you are, and see from the vantage point that God sees you. So look at yourself and recognize the fact that God does not see you as this person with a lack of purpose or a lack of value. And the very fact that you have breath in your body says that he has a purpose and he has value for you. Recognize that. So one, you have to connect and dispel the lies. Dispel the lies that you've been telling yourself about who you are, the lies that you've been telling yourself. Now, granted, and I want to put a pin here, because there are some times where you can feel fulfilled or full of purpose. That's what fulfillment is, in one space of your life. And you could feel completely bored and sick and miserable in another. It's very possible, because we're multidimensional humans. We're multidimensional. So you can have it maybe in your work, in the craft, and what you do, you feel fulfilled. But then when you come home at night, you feel purposeless. You feel like nobody wants you. You feel like you're only good for going to a 9 to 5. You're only good for filing paperwork and doing whatever runs and ripping you have to do for the corporation or the organization or whatever you do for your work. But personally, you feel unfulfilled. Personally, you're bored to death. Find connection. Identify the lie that you've been telling yourself and put the truth in its place. And one truth is you have value, and the other truth is there is purpose. If you just tell yourself that, if you just tell yourself those two things, it can help lead you out of that, or keep you out of that space of depression and hopelessness. I have value and I have purpose. When you start to tell yourself that on a regular basis, you'll begin to believe it. Then you want to connect and find an interest. What are you interested in? So after you've dispelled the lies, after you started to rehearse the truth, now you want to say, okay, what am I interested in? You have to find an interest in order to find your place of belonging. So what are you interested in? And I don't care what it is. It could be building a business. It could be crocheting. It could be knitting. It could be cooking. It could be soap operas. It could be the latest reality TV show. I don't care. Whatever it is. I'm not telling you have to be some scholar or you have to do something deep and wonderful. Find an interest. And when you find that interest, now you take that interest and allow it to lead you to connection with others. Because what happens when you have a lack of purpose and a lack of hope or a lack of value in life, what's missing is your sense of belonging, your sense of interest and your sense of belonging. So now you need to find interest and you need to connect. So community is going to be very key when it comes to bringing you out of that that space of boredom and depression, and helping you to reassess who you are and find your purpose again in life. So once you find that interest, find a connection with an individual, a group of individuals, a community around it. So if it's crocheting, if it's knitting, then you find another group of ladies or guys or whoever that like that also, and you join that community. And if you can't find a community, create it. Find somebody that's interested. It could be your grandchildren. Somebody else that says, oh, grandma, how you do that? Or grandpa, how you do that? Or take them with you. Come on, let me show you. Now you have this sense of belonging. You're building community around this thing, which is ultimately going to help fuel and keep that purpose alive. It's not something that you can just keep alive by yourself. That's what I want you to capture. You can't keep this alive by yourself. You can have the interest, but you're going to have to eventually find a community that supports that interest. And that's what's going to keep your purpose and value alive. So once you found connection with yourself and told yourself the truth about who you are, you found a connection and interest with what it is that you want to do. Now you're going to go find a community or build a community centered around that thing or those things. It could be multiple things. And from there, you'll see yourself elevating above this depression, elevating above this lack of purpose and lack of value. And you'll find yourself now free, a lot more happier, a lot more pleasant to be around, a lot more pleasant for you to be around yourself, not even just other people. I'm talking about just in your room by yourself. You'll find it a lot more pleasant to be with yourself because you have a sense of purpose. You have a sense of purpose. I want to put emphasis on that because I know this is a thing that people deal with, in young and old. There are young people who deal with it because they have lack of direction. Older people deal with it because they've spent all of the years of their life defining their purpose based off another's usefulness of them. So as long as the kids needed you, you had purpose. As long as the job needed you, you had purpose. As long as the local church or assembly needed you, you had purpose. But now the kids are grown. Now the organization has said, okay, you can retire. We're going to give you this much. We're going to give you this severance pay. You can go and enjoy yourself. Now the church is moving in a different direction, and some new blood has come in, and they don't see as much value in you anymore. Now you feel useless because you've lent your years to defining your purpose based on another's usefulness of you. And you never searched yourself to find out what you want, what you desire. Pivot to find your purpose. All hope is not lost. And I'll say it again. If there's breath in your body and you're able to listen to me, watch me, whatever it is, whatever medium you're using to consume this, whatever it is, if you're able to use this, you have breath in your body, that means there's still value. That means God still has a purpose for you. It's your job to pivot and find that. So you want to do those three things: connect with yourself, dispel the lies that you've been told or that you've been telling yourself, find an interest, and find or build a community around that interest. You'll find that life is a lot more easier and that things become a lot more pleasant. And you'll find yourself elevating out of that space of depression and hopelessness. This has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.